Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's Charlie Junkerman, and I'm a member of the Historical Society's 50th Anniversary Task Force. And it's my pleasure to welcome you and tell you a little bit about what's going to happen over the next hour or so. This afternoon, the Stanford Chamber Chorale will transport us to the earliest decades of the university, when Stanford was still part farm, when the quad was still under construction, and the university's founders, Jane and Leland Stanford, watched their ambitious experiment unfold with hope and confidence. All the songs the chorale will sing this afternoon come from the Stanford Songbook. This is actually a facsimile that the bookstore printed at the time of our centennial. Stanford Songbook, it was published in 1919, and as you may have read in your program, fabulous, beautiful program that Sunny and Kathy designed for us, as you may have read, college songbooks were inclusive. That is, they were intended to be used by all the students in group singing. Singing together gave students the experience of blending their voices, becoming part of something bigger than themselves. English majors from Nebraska, engineering majors from Los Angeles, men and women, freshmen, seniors, became unified in singing together. To sing like this felt good, and it felt important. It was, in many ways, a ritual performance of mutual belonging. In the second half of the 19th century, pretty much every college published its own songbook. Yale was the first in 1853, followed shortly afterwards by Amherst, Williams, and Kenyon in 1860. The women's colleges came a little later, Vassar in 1881 and Wellesley in 1882. Stanford, because we're such a young university, came late to the game. But in quick succession, we published 4 songbooks. The first one came out in 1897 and is now apparently lost, although if somebody knows where it is, see me at the reception. Stanford football songs came out in 1904, way before the songbook. A decennial of Stanford song came out in 1905. It was a collection of 82 songs described in the preface. I love this description. These songs are all fine songs, full of go, and full of the Stanford spirit. Then in 1919 came the songbook itself, with 18 favorites. The types of songs that are gathered in college songbooks across the country are pretty consistent. 35% of them typically are football fight songs. There are humorous songs, often poking fun at a particular faculty member. Ceremonial songs that are sung at events like commencement. Romantic serenades, German-style drinking songs, and my favorite, melancholy parting songs to mark the separation at the beginning of every summer vacation and then the final parting at commencement. As I read around in preparation for this afternoon's event, I was astonished to discover that between the Civil War and World War I, there was group singing almost everywhere. The Boy Scouts had their own songbook. So did the Wobblies, the International Workers of the World. The United Mine Workers in Harlan County, Kentucky, didn't have their own, so they borrowed the Wobblies songbook. German-American immigrants were great singers, and in the 1880s in Chicago alone, there were over 60 German-American singing clubs. And I suspect if you looked at Minneapolis and Seattle, you'd find an equal number of Norwegian-American immigrant singing clubs. Laborers of all stripes, sailors, stevedores, railroad workers, and prisoners sang to lighten their boredom and relieve their physical exhaustion. Soldiers sang while they marched toward battle or away from it or resting in camp. One of the most celebrated instances of soldiers singing together was the famous World War I Christmas truce of 1914. Many of you are familiar with the story. On Christmas Day, German soldiers lit candles and arranged them at the top of their trench and started singing Stille Nacht. The British soldiers, who were within hearing distance, responded by singing the same carol in their language, Silent Night. They continued to exchange carols back and forth, and before going to sleep and waking up the next morning to start shooting at each other again, they joined in a chorus of Auld Lang Syne. It's not too much of an exaggeration to say that in the years between 1880 and 1920, the entire country was singing. And then, around 1920, not abruptly and not absolutely, but noticeably, people stopped singing together. Social historians blame technology. With the emergence of public radio stations and affordable record players, the singers, once performers of song, now became its audience. On college campuses across the country, students put their songbooks up on the shelf, and where singing persisted, it took the form of recitals by glee clubs and choruses whose members were selected competitively, who rehearsed their songs and performed them for appreciative audiences, which kind of describes this afternoon's event, right? So I'd like to point out that what we're going to experience over the next 45 minutes or an hour is a hybrid experience. That is, the songs are simple musically and set to familiar tunes. They're simple and familiar because the purpose was to get as many people singing together as quickly as possible. Right? But these songs, these simple songs, will be performed by the exquisitely selected and trained Stanford Chamber Chorale under the direction of Professor Steve Sano. Steve is known internationally as a gifted conductor, and he's appreciated here at Stanford as a prize-winning and much-beloved teacher. He'll be joined on stage this afternoon by his music department colleague, Laura Dahl, the brilliant pianist, accompanist, and in her generation, one of the most sought-after chamber music accompanists. And though we won't see him, after we leave the concert hall for our reception up in the lobby and out on the terraces, University Carillonneur Tim Zerlein will play several more selections from the Stanford Songbook on the carillon bells atop Hoover Tower. Now, before we get to the music, it's my pleasure to introduce a very special guest to offer his own welcome. Andrew Luck needs no introduction at Stanford. He was our star quarterback for 3 years, from 2009 to 2011, where he set dozens of football records and was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. In 2012, he was the first draft pick of the Indianapolis Colts, playing for 7 seasons and retiring with 9 franchise records and 9 NFL records. And though there isn't an actual award for this, one of the things I like best about Andrew is that he was one of the nicest guys on the field and regularly baffled opposing players by complimenting them when they made a particularly good play. Fortunately for us, Andrew decided to return to the farm in 2024 as general manager of Stanford football, and lucky for us, he was happy to join us this afternoon to say a few words of welcome. So please join me in welcoming Andrew Luck to the podium.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. It's fantastic being here. I'm going to spare you my singing voice. My voice is more lent to yelling red 80, hut at people on the football field. My 6-year-old daughter, Lucy, is my date today, so thanks for coming, Lucy. I appreciate that. Woohoo! I'm the class of 2012. I am also, despite my singing voice, a very enthusiastic partaker in Hail Stanford Hail after every home football game, no matter the win or the loss. And I think even as I'm sitting here listening to your introduction, Charlie, realizing why that is so special for me, for the players on our team, for our coaches, because it connects us. It connects us to Pop Warner. It connects us to Clark Shaughnessy, to John Brody, rest in peace, to Frankie Albert, to Jim Plunkett, to John Elway. There's a legacy at this university. I certainly feel the legacy of a football team that's been around since 1892. And if 35% of the songs are around football or about football, well, I guess it makes sense for me to be here as well. And listen and give maybe one more note on the intersection of sports and spirit. And I think, we all love this university maybe for different reasons. But I think we could all agree it's more than a classroom, it's more than a particular thread of research, it's more than the amazing teaching and learning that goes on here. But this when we're at our best, it's community and it's celebration. And there is a vibrant soul of Stanford. And I know what we're about to hear, when we do Hail Stanford Hail, when we on the football team do our more contemporary chant of Sea House together in the locker room, we know that connects us to many, many, many generations, that it pulls these incredibly important threads. And I certainly feel like I belong to something much bigger than just myself. So I'm incredibly proud to be here. I appreciate everybody at football games who stays and sings Hail Stanford Hail with us, especially when we get that axe back like we did this past year from Cal. And I remember perhaps my sophomore year was the first big game rally I went to. And I need to understand a little more of the history. Maybe I'll talk to you, Charlie and Larry, about this after. But I remember standing up there and hearing the chant about the axe and thinking, okay, we can have this amazing soul at Stanford, but our students are also writing humorous stanzas and refrains about where do we give Cal the axe? Right in the neck. It's very violent. It lends itself to the violent game of football. And so I've always enjoyed anything that takes a good dig at Cal. So, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce the conductor for today's recital, Professor Steve Sano, and the Stanford Chamber Chorale. Thank you very much. A rousing welcome for him.
Because this is a joint program between the chorale, the music department, and the Historical Society, we're going to say a few words before each song to contextualize them for you historically. I'll do some of them, Steve will do some of them, Laura will do some of them, and actually we're going to start off with Hail Stanford Hail with both me and Steve doing a little something. So mine is very short. Let me just begin by saying, of course, how many of you know this song? Yeah, not everybody, though. Yeah, okay, well, here we go. It is the Stanford's official alma mater, and it was written just 2 years after the university opened. That is in 1893. And it was written, as it turns out, by a faculty couple, right? Albert Smith, professor of mechanical engineering, wrote the lyrics, and his soon-to-be wife, Mary Roberts Coolidge, wrote the music. Mary went on to become the first full-time professor of sociology at Stanford, and in fact, the first full-time professor of sociology anywhere in the country. The song's hymn-like melody and imagery of rolling hills, the coast range at sunset, and moonlit arcades painted an idealized portrait of the farm for students who were literally watching the campus take shape around them. Today, Hail Stanford Hail is performed at commencement and on ceremonial occasions, and it remains Stanford's official hymn.
Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here, share this music with you. We're going to open today's recital with the original version of Hail, Stanford, Hail. Chorale, why don't you all stand for this? And at the end of the program, we'll close today's event with the current official version that has been in use since the university's centennial in 1991. And at that time, at the end of the recital, I'll tell you the story of that newer version's provenance. But for now, I wanted to illustrate a couple of, shall we say, suboptimal elements in the original version. I also want to note that Hail, Stanford, Hail is the only school alma mater of which I'm aware that has the word Flushing in it. Now, there are a couple of things that are a little odd about this original version, and one of them is this. This is for those of you who know music, I'm just going to make a couple of musical comments, but just use your ears. You don't have to have taken a music theory class or anything like that. It's in this key, and this note is kind of home, right? That's kind of what grounds us in this key. And you would expect in a hymn-like setting that the beginning of it would be grounded with that in the basis of the chorus, the lowest voice of the chorus. But in this original version, it's not. It's voiced like this, which is consonant and feels okay, but the weird thing is this note really has this gravity that pulls us down to, but it doesn't ground us at the beginning. It's a very kind of odd way to start this particular setting. The other thing is that in the chorus, on the text, "It shall ring while we sing," there are indications in the music, kind of articulatory indications, staccati, dots placed above the notes that tell us to sing it, "It shall ring as we sing." And this, to a musician, this is very unintuitive to have the word ring. Ring. You know, it's like someone took the clapper to the bell and then immediately deadened it, right? And so it actually doesn't ring. Listen to the chorale sing just that little bit. "It shall ring." Just those two measures.
It shall ring as we sing.
Yeah, it's... What? Very strange. So we're going to do the whole original setting, and then we'll revisit it with the one that we use now as the official version of the Stanford hymn. So this is Hail, Stanford, Hail in its original arrangement. And no doubt you noticed that it was also Hail, Stanford, Hail, which is also a very odd setting to me. Okay, so we're going to move from that one to the official fight song of the university, which is "Come Join the Band." Very good. Now, what's interesting about this to me as a musician, this is actually, the music was extant. The music for this already existed. And the official fight song is actually the second section of an extant march called The New Colonial March by Robert Brown Hall. Robert Brown Hall, 1858 to 1907, were his dates. He was a popular composer of marches for band, much in the vein of John Philip Sousa. So think of Washington Post March or Stars and Stripes Forever, right? Famous Sousa marches. And indeed, many bands still play Hall's marches. But what's interesting to me is the fact that the melody for Come Join the Band is extracted from this pre-existing march in the following way. Marches are often constructed, described most simply in an A-B form. That is, there is an opening A section and a second B section that is called the trio that is contrasting. And there are other more granular developments in the architecture. We won't get into any of that. But for our purposes today, just think of marches as consisting of an opening A section and a contrasting B section. One of the most famous examples of this construction is this march that I'm going to ask Laura to play just a snippet of very beginning. It goes like this. What is that? Anyone know? If I ask her to play the trio section or the B section of the march, you'll recognize it. Which we all know as, oh yeah, that thing they play at commencement, right? It is Edward Elgar, famous neo-romantic British composer. It is Edward Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance March No. 1. And the part that we hear is actually the second part. That first part doesn't get played at commencement very often, if at all. In Come Join the Band, the piece that it was drawn from, the New Colonial March, the opening section, which we never hear, like at football games, sounds like this. And that part is actually one of the songbooks that Charlie had mentioned earlier. That part actually appears in the printed music. Not in all versions. Some versions only have the part that we all know and sing. So the B section, or trio, is what we've come to know and love as our official fight song, Come Join the Band. The lyrics are by Aurania Ellerbach. She was a student here from 1907 to 1909, and then turned playwright, actually quite known as a playwright. And they were written several years after the march itself was composed. So we'll sing for you now, Come Join the Band. We'll sing only the B section, or the trio, the part that we all know as the official fight song. Chorale, stand.
Come
This is a Victorious Cardinal, the second of four football fight songs that you'll hear this afternoon. Football was born with the university, and the first big game was played against Cal's Golden Bears up in San Francisco on March 9th, 1892. Stanford's team, managed by a student named Herbert Hoover, won the game 14-0. My best friend from graduate school at Berkeley is here in the audience, and sorry, Vin, this is going to be writhing for you. Anyway, by 1915, when this song was written, both Stanford and Cal had switched from American football to the less dangerous and considered more gentlemanly game of rugby. It was due to concerns over high levels of violence, injury, and even death in football games at the time. The change lasted 12 seasons, from 1906 to 1917, and rugby was the game of every big game during those years. In 1919, Stanford returned to American football because rule changes, such as the introduction of the forward pass, made the game safer and more popular. The Victorious Cardinal is one of many collaborations between Milt Hagen and Maurice Blumenthal, both undergraduates from Nebraska. The Victorious Cardinal.
I would like to talk to you for just a little bit about ragtime, because we are going to do for you the Stanford Rag. So, ragtime is a musical style noted for its syncopated or ragged rhythm. A piano rag generally has the syncopation, the raggedness in the right hand, and often there's a stride sort of bass in the left hand. Ragtime was propelled to popularity by such composers as James Scott, Joseph Lamb, and I think everyone has heard of Scott Joplin. Ragtime style is actually closely related to marches, and we were just talking about marches. Ragtime pieces, or rags, usually contain several distinct themes which are arranged in patterns of repeats and reprises. So I thought I would take you, just explain the form. It might be more fun if I did it using a very famous rag by Scott Joplin, The Entertainer. And this rag was propelled to extreme popularity in 1971 by the caper movie The Sting. In fact, it was Grammy nominated, the arrangement of it. So this is a ragtime two-step, and generally a rag follows a musical form of A, B, C, D, and it's always repeated, so it's A, B, B, C, C, D, D, and usually the C section is called the trio, and often that trio section not only, of course, has distinctly different music, but is in a different key, and it's often the subdominant. So this rag starts with a groovy little intro, and then we get the A section. And that, I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, that would be boring. Well, it's Scott Joplin, so it wouldn't be boring. But we're here for a different reason today. So the A section is repeated, and then we hear the B section, which has a different theme. Again, that is repeated. Then this rag unusually returns to the A section for just one reprise. And then finally, we move to the C section. This piece is in C major, so those of you that enjoy harmony, you can, bet you've guessed the key. It's F major, the subdominant, and it's very different sounding. And then we get our D section, which is the final theme, the final music in the rag. And we're back in C major. And after we get that beautiful music, the rag, and it's repeated, of course, the rag concludes. So we are now going to hear, because Stanford young people were very taken with the rag. Everybody was taken with the rag. And we have a Stanford rag to perform for you, and I wanted to let you know that it was written for the junior class opera of 1915, The College Prince. The junior class opera I hadn't known about, but it kind of functions like the Gaieties today. It was a beloved tradition, a creative outlet for student talent that actually generated some of the most memorable songs in the songbook that we're exploring today.
To the
This next piece is a march, the Cardinal Forever, and you just heard Steve very well explained the basic form of a march. This piece, like most marches, we were all surprised by the pomp and circumstance, has a trio section that is in a different key and a remarkably different tone, character. It's even marked dolce, which is Italian for sweet. So that's an unusual marking to see in a march. But I think that this composer was very important to them that the trio section was distinctly different.
This next piece, 1, 2, 3, 4, I have a particular interest in Hawaii, in native Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian musical culture, and this next song has a fascinating connected history to me. The melody was written by John Keakaukalani Ailau. He was a well-known Hawaiian composer and a steel guitarist back in the late 1800s. He gained fame using the name Jack Ailau. And putting on my other hats as faculty director of Asian American Studies and as one of the co-founding directors of our new Asian American Research Center at Stanford, the lyrics in the first verse of this next song are, shall we say, troubling. The song in question, 1, 2, 3, 4, the text of which was written by Larry Bowman, class of 01, that would be 1901. The verses of the song depict a frosh, a sophomore, a junior, a senior, and an alum. Not a fairly common theme, actually. Several of these songs do that. But it's the lyrics at the end of the first verse that are particularly troubling. Now, granted, one must consider the socio-historical context of texts that were written at the turn of that century. The text in question here says, and this is the actual lyrics, "Yet ni sam si," so says the heathen Chinese. When confronting texts like this, I think it's not only appropriate to consider historical context, but in this case, there's also how Stanford existed in that time. Of course, we all know that much of Leland Stanford Sr.'s wealth came from his involvement with the Central Pacific and Southern Pacific Railroads, and as head of the company that built the western portion of the Transcontinental Railroad, much of his wealth, which was, of course, a foundational resource that contributed to the founding of our university, much of his wealth was built literally on the backs of Chinese laborers. And much of our original university, that is the physical plant, was also built by Chinese laborers. In fact, our colleague, Professor Barbara Voss of our anthropology department and the Stanford Archaeology Center, has a research project called the Arboretum Chinese Labor Quarters Project. It's a study of historic Chinese workers' residences here on the Stanford campus back in those days. I think it's also important to know that this anti-Asian bias continued for decades here on campus. There is the famous, or perhaps I should say infamous, quote in a 1928 report from the Stanford University Placement Service Office, as like a career development center, right, that exclaimed, quote, "It is almost impossible to place a Chinese or Japanese of either the first or second generation in any kind of position, engineering, manufacturing, or business." Uncomfortable or even offensive as these attitudes are, they are a part of Stanford's history. And I believe it's good to know one's background in order to carry out the work of making the place for which we all have great affection a better and more welcoming environment for everyone. So we're going to sing for you the first verse of 1, 2, 3, 4, bearing in mind the text and the holistic context from which it arose. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Next number is Stanford Red. There was a widespread misunderstanding among many in the Stanford family, and one that I shared, I have to confess, until I wrote these notes a few weeks ago. The misunderstanding was that the Stanford Indian was our original mascot, and until it was retired in 1972, Stanford Indian. But it wasn't that way. Our original color and mascot were the color red, cardinal red. It was only in 1930 that the university adopted the Indian as its mascot for what turned out to be a 42-year ride before ceding the throne back to the color cardinal in 1972. So on the subject of the color red, which you've gotten a lot of already, and there'll be more today. The members of the chorale are wearing red scarves to commemorate the singing circle known as the Red Scarf Club that was active between 1912 and 1917. It was not a choral organization per se, but a social club whose members especially enjoyed singing together. The red scarves disappear from the quad yearbook after about 1917, leaving a brief but charming glimpse of Stanford's early student social culture. And when Sonny Scott and Kathy Schneidven came up with the idea of the red scarves, the chorale immediately in rehearsal said, yes, we want to do that. And we said, well, they're going to be imaginative in how they wear these scarves. So congratulations, all of you. Steve has some more words about this upcoming song.
Just one very quick note about the music. This song is something of a rarity among Stanford songs in that it begins in a minor key. So without knowing anything about music theory, it's the difference between this sound, color, and affect and this sound, color, and affect. You'll hear in each verse, in the middle of each verse, it goes from that darker minor color, and it switches to major, concluding each verse in a more positive and uplifting vein.
Oh
Sons of the Stanford Red was written for 1910 Class Day celebrations, and it's a textbook example of the football fight song. Fight for the fame of Stanford's name, undaunted, forge ahead. It's actually very martial, as are many of the songs in this genre, and one can imagine G.F. Morgan, who wrote these words, 7 years later, in 1917, repurposing this song as a recruiting song for the U.S. Army. An unexpected factoid about football fight songs during the first decades of the university's existence is that 3 of the most prolific writers in this genre were women. Alice Kimball, class of '04, Claire Sewell, class of '05, and Mabel Baum, class of '05. A brief note about the composer of the music for this song, William Charles Atchee Jr., who as an adult was a prominent Native Hawaiian lawyer and musician. He attended Stanford from 1909 to 1911, playing varsity baseball and violin in the Stanford Symphony Orchestra. Sons of the Stanford Red.
Stanford Mandalay. So our next song, Stanford Mandalay, we all probably know Mandalay as that large city in central Myanmar. Many of you might have visited it as well. But backing up a bit, a part of the etymology of the word Mandalay comes from the word in Pali, mandare, meaning an auspicious land. Perhaps an appropriate description of our university, indeed. Rudyard Kipling's poem, Mandalay, about the Mandalay in Myanmar, or what was at the time Burma, is the inspiration for Stanford Mandalay. And again, if one considers the historical context of the original poem, the stage of British colonial imperialism is quite evident, with one line in the poem stating, "Come you back, you British soldier, come you back to Mandalay." Now, the affectionate reminiscing and longing for place is evident both in the original Kipling poem and the Stanford song. Kipling's poem was first published in 1890, so a year before the university was organized. Not very long before S.G. Morrison, who was class of '01, composed the text for Stanford Mandalay. The music by Henry Trevanian, who wrote it to set Kipling's poem, is lyrical and flowing, and as Charlie had noted in some notes he was preparing for today's event, it's very different from, and I quote Charlie, the adrenaline-driven fight songs that we've been singing, though notice that the second verse, with all of its sentimental dreaminess, ends with raw. R-A-H, not R-A-W. Okay, Charlie also notes that Stanford Mandalay, along with 1, 2, 3, 4, which we've heard, and Hail Stanford Hail, our alma mater, were the most popular songs on campus in 1905. Stanford Mandalay.
The Cardinal Fighting Song is our penultimate song, and the last song of the afternoon will be hailed, Stanford Hail. But the Cardinal Fighting Song is what we've got up now. The decade after the 1906 earthquake was a time of reconstruction, literally, and retrenchment for the university. Both founders had passed away, and the endowment wasn't quite adequate to cover costs. So the Board of Trustees and President Ray Lyman Wilbur reluctantly started charging tuition, $40 a quarter. The Stanford Fighting Song was written by two members of the class of 1913, among the first to graduate from the rebuilt Memorial Church following the earthquake. Paul Eliel, who wrote the words to this song, was prominent in newspaper work as a student at Stanford, a member of the 1913 Quad and of the Daily Palo Alto staff. He later became a professor of industrial relations on the Stanford faculty. The Cardinal Fighting Song.
We close today's recital with a return, as I indicated at the beginning, a return to Stanford's alma mater, Hail, Stanford Hail. If you recall, at the beginning of our time together today, I mentioned how the original version of the song was pretty suboptimal arrangement as far as quality of choral writing. In 1991, when Stanford was celebrating its centennial, one of the culminating events was a concert by the San Francisco Symphony in Davies Symphony Hall in San Francisco. Were any of you at that event? Some people were. Okay, fabulous. It was at Davies Hall in San Francisco because at the time, of course, this magnificent space, being concert hall, wouldn't exist for another 22 years. The finale of the concert was a singing of Hail, Stanford, Hail by the combined choirs in the Department of Music. I was a graduate student here at the time, and we sent a copy of the score, the one that you heard earlier today at the beginning of the program. We sent a copy of that score of Hail, Stanford, Hail to Maestro Herbert Blumstedt, who was at the time the director of music and principal conductor of the San Francisco Symphony, and he was conducting that concert. So Maestro Blumstedt took one look at it and said, and I'm paraphrasing, "Oh my, this is so bad, could you have someone rearrange it?" So we asked one of my graduate student colleagues, Michael Rosewall, DMA 1992, to write a new arrangement for that concert. His arrangement has been the official version of Hail, Stanford, Hail ever since then, that now one hears at major university events such as commencement every year. Whereas the original version might earn a grade of maybe a C- in a music theory class, Michael's arrangement would absolutely earn an A+. It's crafted beautifully. For those of you who have taken some music theory, like the voice leading is excellent. I mean, it's crafted really beautifully. Before we sing it, and on behalf of the Stanford Chamber Chorale, we wanted to extend a heartfelt thanks to the Stanford Historical Society for inviting us to contribute to today's event. Thank you to Charlie Junkerman and Larry Horton, all the folks on the amazing team at SHS. It takes a village to put something like this together, and they've been wonderful to work with. It's been an honor indeed to prepare these songs that are part of Stanford's history and to share them with all of you today. So we will sing Hail Stanford Hail through once so you can hear the official version. After that, we'll invite everyone to stand and sing it with us as a finale. After we sing it together, please be seated for just a few moments for the official close of today's program. So here is, we'll sing it through once for you first, and then after that, we'll have you stand and join us. Hail Stanford Hail. Join us. Here's your, can you play a D? So here's your first note in the melody. A D. D. Da 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 dum would be the beginning. Here we go. And.
I'm Larry Horton, president of the Stanford Historical Society, and I have just a few closing comments. The Stanford Historical Society is now celebrating its 50th anniversary of its founding. We are very proud to have the Stanford Department of Music as our co-sponsor of today's program. The good news is that we have recorded and captured today's program on video. After post-production, we will post it on our YouTube channel. We will also post on our website both this program and the 14-minute film of old photos that was shown before the program began. We especially thank Professor Steve Sano for selecting today's songs and for conducting the chorale. We also thank Laura Dahl for her piano artistry and the members of the chorale for the magnificent and robust singing of songs from our history. And thanks to Andrew Luck, who has already made history at Stanford and is now helping us tell it. We give advance thanks also to Tim Zerling for his role in the finale of today's program. We also deeply appreciate Kim Pross for making the Bing Concert Hall available to us. Of the many members of the Stanford Historical Society who worked on some aspects of this program, 3 people deserve special recognition. Charlie Junkerman, our Master of Ceremonies, first proposed this program, and he has been deeply involved in every aspect of production for about 8 months now. Sonny Scott and Kathy Schneidwein designed and produced the keepsake program that you have and all the slides on the screen. We thank them all for their superb contributions. My final word about the Historical Society is to anyone here who is not a member. We are a membership organization of volunteers to promote the preservation and study of Stanford history. We welcome new members. Please consider joining us. Information on how to join us is available at the main table in the lobby. This concludes our program in the concert hall. After we conclude here, we will adjourn to hear a wonderful concert of early Stanford songs played to us by Dr. Tim Zerling on the carillon located at the top of Hoover Tower, which is just a short distance from us. You have all been a wonderful audience. Thank you all. And now we can show our appreciation for the musical artist who has given us the sublime experience of hearing beautiful performances of the songs from our earliest history.
Thank you so much for being here.